Welcome back to Beyond the Curve. I have some great videos for you today. Please hit that like button, share, comment, and subscribe. Let's go.
Satellites are fake. They don't exist as described. And I know a lot of you are going to have a problem with it. I know the keyboard warriors are going to slap on their black gloves with the fingertips cut off. And let me know what geniuses, prodigies, and intellectuals you all are. You guys are so smart. But in reality, believing in satellites is actually the dumbest shit ever because it is theoretically and physically impossible. So let's get into it. Satellites allegedly reside in the thermosphere. Now, thermal means dealing with heat. So how hot are we talking? According to them, up to 2,000 degrees Celsius. Do you know how hot that is? As hot as a blast furnace. Now, the melting points of the materials used in satellites, which are aluminum, titanium, and gold, are all well below 2,000 degrees Celsius. So those satellites would be literal balls of flame. This is how they'd look. We're supposed to believe that there are over 10,000 satellites in space, hurtling over 17,000 miles an hour and over 25,000 pieces of space junk. Well, where are they? Somehow, in all those feeds we're given in those CGI portions of the Earth, we can never see one of these tin cans hurtling through space. And why can't you find one genuine photo of a satellite in space? Probably for the same reason you can't find one photo of Antarctica from space either. And you know our beloved internet? Almost all of it is propagated through undersea fiber optic cables. This is how they do it. You can look it up for yourself. Oh, but what about satellite phones? We get perfect service everywhere because it's beamed from outer space, right? You know damn well the moment you're out of your city, your service starts to decline. All your mobile technologies are ground-based. So you've got cell towers, those sea cables, base stations, and so on. And what about GPS? Well, it's basically the same thing. By measuring the signal strength differences between multiple cell towers, yeah, that's what they call cell tower triangulation, it can pinpoint your exact location. No satellites required. But you've seen them in the night sky, haven't you? You've got lighter-than-air vehicles, high-altitude platforms, airships, and landers that often get mistaken for satellites. You cannot see something the size of a car thousands of miles away, no chance. That dot in the sky moving around at night is not a satellite, it's one of those balloons, honestly. Now, speaking of balloons, this is the best part. Guess who's the largest consumer of helium? You guessed it, NASA. This is what your satellites actually look like. And this is how they're launched. Yeah, not as climactic as one would originally think. And your Hubble telescope, the one that's supposedly providing infinite data of galaxies and big bangs in the universe. Not one genuine photo of it in orbit. Not one. Not one genuine image of any satellite in space. Like, again, do any of these actually look real to y'all? It's funny how the pieces of the puzzle start to come together when you learn that satellites were first predicted in 1945 by Arthur C. Clarke, a Freemason science fiction writer and even co-creator of the film A Space Odyssey. If you know, you know. And not long after, science fiction became science fact. With new eyes to see, it becomes clear. There are no actual images of satellites, no actual footage, just CGI and photoshopped images, that's all. There are no rocket tin cans orbiting a ball Earth. They're suspended within our terrestrial plane beneath the firmament. And they've been beating the divinity out of us with pseudoscience, propaganda, and spiritual delineation, and you people just eat that shit up. Your beloved satellites that you defend till death with absolutely no proof. No genuine photos of the Earth. And honestly, you don't mind them not existing. Just like your children's cartoons are designed to dumb them down, you accept cartoon images as real life. Just admit it. You believe in bullshit. Now, we were all taught it, but the question is, are you okay with that? All you have to do is look at the evidence, think critically, turn off the television, and understand it is all controlled. Like, we're just going to act like the United Nations doesn't have this in one of their buildings. And you compare that to their logo, the International Maritime Organization, International Civil Aviation, the World Health Organization. How obvious does it have to get, guys? Learn about Freemasonry, learn about the Jesuit order, and you'll be able to start decoding all the BS. This is for entertainment purposes only.
A new report from top geologists confirms the Earth is, in fact, flat.
Oh, yeah, it's flat. I bet if you took a boat clear to the edge, you'd fall right off.
I knew it. Been telling folks for years that thing's flat.
And the sun and moon, what are they?
Two big light bulbs on a track. God just slides them back and forth.
One of the most commonly cited alleged proofs of the globe Earth is the disappearance of ships sailing beyond the horizon, as seen from an observer on shore. Globe Earthers since Aristotle have claimed the reason that ship hulls disappear before their mastheads when sailing away is due to the physical curvature of the Earth obfuscating their view. This simple supposed proof is still cited today by Neil deGrasse Tyson, Michelle Thaler, and other NASA spokespeople, but is easily shown invalid with the use of modern zoom technology. By fixing a good telescope or super zoom camera aimed at the horizon on a clear day, it is possible to bring ships that have completely disappeared beyond the supposed curvature of the Earth fully back into view. The fact of the matter is that the law of perspective on plane surfaces dictates and necessitates this phenomenon. For example, a girl wearing a dress walking away towards the horizon will appear to sink into the earth the farther away she walks. Her feet will disappear from view first, and the distance between the ground and the bottom of her dress will gradually diminish until after about a half a mile it seems like her dress is touching the ground as she walks on invisible legs. The same happens with cars speeding away. The axles gradually get lower and the wheels vanish until it appears as if the car is gliding along its body. Such is the case on plane surfaces. The lowest parts of objects receding from a given point of observation necessarily disappear before the highest. It has absolutely nothing to do with the supposed curvature of the Earth, and everything to do with the nature of vision. When you look out at the flat horizontal horizon, the ground appears to rise up from your feet to your eye level, and the sky appears to slope down from over your head to your eye level. A row of lampposts appears to get shorter in the distance, but in reality, they are all actually the same height. If you are looking out over a road or railway track, you will also notice the same phenomenon happening left to right. The parallel sides of the road or railway appear to converge at a point on the horizon, but in reality, they never actually converge and remain parallel the whole length. This law of perspective is therefore an optical illusion hardwired into the very way we perceive the world. Even without a zoom camera or telescope, it is simple to prove that ships sailing into the horizon are not disappearing beyond the curvature of a globe. Instead of looking straight ahead at the ship disappearing a few miles in the distance, first look to your left, where you can see equally far into the distance, and then look to your right, where you can see equally far again. In other words, you can see twice as far from left to right as you can see straight in front of you anyway. But for some reason, you think at just half the distance in front of you, ships are already disappearing over the supposed curvature of the Earth. This is
Well, this might be a good conversation starter week, or at least an interesting one. Do you believe the Earth is a sphere? The answers you get might surprise you.
The curving horizon, the sloping sea level, the spin of the Earth. Unless you can see these phenomena with your own eyes, they may not be true. Unlike what we've been told in school, the Earth looks like a snow globe, round but not sphere. The North
They're giving you the truth right there, people.
Pole is at the center of most flat Earth maps, with the ice of Antarctica holding everything in.
An American conspiracy that nobody, my exclusive one, I came up with. You know what it is? It's the Panama Canal. And you're going to say, why would the Panama Canal be a conspiracy? I go, it's one of the bigger ones. People don't even talk about it, and which is when we build things here, again, different from where, I don't know if you like had construction accidents back in the day, but we lost people from time to time. So when we like build a skyscraper, you lose like 30 people. You know, guys would be like, just fall, right? Panama Canal was basically just a big ditch, right? You know, you're not climbing anything. It's just a big trench that you're filling in with concrete. You know how many people died making the Panama Canal? No. Americans? Better part of 6,000. 6,000 men died, not military, civilians, freaking died during the Panama Canal. You say, well, they died. And I say, well, they died of malaria and yellow fever. And then you'd be like, well, that happens. Mosquitoes bite people. It's like, yeah. And you'd say, well, they didn't know they were going to lose that many people. It's like, yes, we did. We were fully prepared to kill that many men. Why? Because we didn't start the Panama Canal. You know who did?
Billy Joel.
The French back in the day.
Doesn't anybody know that Zen Garcia proved that the Earth was flat in a court case in 2019? Yeah, that's right. All that he wanted was somebody to prove that the Earth was actually curving 8 inches per mile squared, or going 50 miles per hour at least, spinning. And they say that we're spinning 1,000 miles per hour. And both of these things seem to be really hard for the heliosexuals to prove. He actually won in court not only once, but twice. Bottom paragraph halfway down. William Thomson applied to the contest but was never able to produce not even one real-world verifiable scientific experiment which would or could confirm the rate of curvature as decided upon the mathematicians and scientists themselves should the Earth be 24,901 miles in spherical circumference. He even gave some awesome sources on why the Earth is in fact a level plane and not an oblate spheroid. Please pause and read this.
Well, I'm sold.
Ladies and gentlemen,
the world is flat.
the world is flat. This is actually proof that the earth is flat.
The world is flat.
The earth is flat.
You don't see the curvature of the earth. That stuff is flat.
It's already been proven that we don't live on a globe. If you want the truth, watch this video.
And the planets we know from our solar system. They apparently are spherical when viewed through telescopes, but we do not know their real format. That is, not always what we see represents reality. We made a scale model on geographic scale, just so that people have better clarity. a visualization that much more facilitates the understanding of what Earth really is. According to the report, according to all the research that has been carried out by our researchers, we have come to the conclusion of this format of the Earth.
We have been conditioned since childhood to accept that our planet has this round format. But if I say that there doesn't even exist a real image of our entire planet, to date, none of the space agencies of these institutions have managed to register an entire image of our planet. With all the technology and advances of science, this image does not yet exist. So how are they made, all those beautiful photographs we see on the internet, on posters, in films? This is very simple. Local images are taken, passed to a computer program, so they are manipulated, forged into a format we know today. This beautiful image, this photograph of the blue planet that we know is nothing more than propaganda, just like many others we see daily. According to the research done, the calculations and measurements taken from our planet, this is not its format. The real format of our world is this. It is convex in its continents and leveled in the waters.
I was hired to build a model of the globe and the convex Earth. I never thought that the Earth would have a different shape. I always believed that the Earth was a globe, an entire round sphere, all tidy, perfect. After the completion of the construction, I see the importance that you cannot live on a planet without level and without plumb. I can only conclude that our planet is convex.
Just as the image of our planet is manipulated, the size and shapes of the continents also go through the same type of problem. They are very different from what we have custom to see on the world maps. Countries like Brazil or Russia, they gain land extensions much larger than are informed, which would explain so many miscalculations in land demarcations. Now, how do we come to this conclusion? It is very simple. If we take into account all the numerical data, all the measurements, the distances in the tropics, the meridians, the coasts, the extensions of land, and apply it on paper, taking all the details into consideration, all these continents suffer great distortions. Without exception, none of them stay out of it. Some, as I said, Brazil and Russia suffer an increase in land, and others, like the United States, suffer a reduction.
During the surveys, strong evidence emerged of the existence of a new continent.
Is there any unexplored land left on this Earth?
Strangely enough, there's left in the world today an area as big as the United States that's never been seen by a human being. And that's beyond the pole, on the other side of the South Pole, from Middle America.
With the help of Navy and Air Force officers, we were able to trace logistics towards the greater north, towards Siberia, towards Russia. There were several factors that led us to perceive the existence of the new continent. With the launch of several atmospheric probes, equipped with cameras and other equipment, we were able to identify a territorial mass that is not included in our maps. It is not part of our current cartography. And, analyzing the images, mainly of the probes, we realized that it is part of a new continent, behind an immense layer of ice. After seeing these images, we directed our expeditions to the limits, where a human being or the autonomy of a ship were able to get. And we collected many evidences of dust on the ice, pollen, and other evidences that really brought us to the certainty of the evidence of this new continent. So there is no doubt that there really is a new continent, of new lands beyond the great mass of ice that impedes us to overcome. The research continues. We have not yet put our feet in this place. We only had observations from a distance, but we intend to get to this place as soon as possible.
They're not going to allow that.
If I say that the world is round and someone else says it's flat, that's worth reporting.
Should we still debate whether the Earth is flat?
Like they used to think the sun went around the earth. Everybody say that scientist. He's so smart.
Other science refuted it.
Right, but back then, like everybody at that time thought that guy was smart. Why at this time do we think that the earth goes around the sun?
There's an overwhelming science that the earth was flat, and there was an overwhelming science that
You'll learn over time.
we're the center of the world.
You're just taking an authority's word for it, and all we're saying is be skeptical. And while you're being skeptical, there's a bunch of evidence that's totally against the mainstream version. And while you're being skeptical and looking at that evidence, you start compiling more and more of the evidence until you become like me, you know the truth. I don't believe the earth is flat and motionless. I know it is.
There was a lot of things that I thought I knew that now suddenly turned out to be completely different. They can't just impose stuff on us. They have to tell us about it and wait for our consent. And silence is considered consent.
If the sun was 93 million miles away, you wouldn't see that. We see in perspective. That is, the horizon is at our eye level. And as things recede from us, they tend to converge to the center of that horizon line, to a place that's known as the vanishing point. The sun rotates around us and only appears to rise and set because of the way our vision works. Now, try and watch the following video without the preconception that the sun rises and sets, but rather moves further away.
The images of your world with curves or as a ball are CGI. You've seen those images all your life. They're paintings, they're computer-generated images, or a little of both. Anything with a curve and the Earth is a fake. It's a fraud. You have never, with your naked...
So you still think you live on a globe, right? Where people on the other side of the globe, like let's say in Australia, are living life like this, flipping upside down and walking upside down and running upside down and swimming upside down and boating upside down. You believe this, right? I mean, you would have to if you think you live on a globe. Well, what if no one's actually doing anything upside down? What if you just believe that because you were told that at a very young age? What if we live on something much more like this, where everyone is right side up and the sun and the moon circle above us, and well, there's this ice wall that surrounds all of us and holds in the water that's always flat and level. You know, kind of like what's exactly depicted in actual maps from pre-NASA days. This is a 1944 map that the air school teachers used to actually use to teach their students. And notice the white thing going around them. Yeah, that's actually Antarctica and how it used to be depicted on these pre-NASA maps. And you know the funny thing about Antarctica? It just happens to be the highest elevated land in all the world by more than double. That's Antarctica. Average elevation by continent. That's Antarctica. More than double. So it's saying this kind of acts like a bowl or a cup. You know, kind of like described in the Bible when it says the earth takes shape like clay under a seal. But Tyler, if the sun were circling us, how would we ever have night and day? Because here it's so easily explainable. The Earth turns every 24 hours and half of it's facing the sun and the other half isn't. Oh, that looks really real, by the way. I'm so glad you asked that question. You see, the sun is local and it's close, and the Earth is a pretty big place. And even though you don't realize this because we're told differently, light doesn't travel endlessly. And well, if you still think you live on a globe, then you really don't realize that you live in an enclosed system. There's an enclosure above us, the firmament, in fact. And this is what happens when a light is shined on the firmament. It's also why you can see the sun angling, because it's circling. If it was just going down because the Earth was rotating, well, it would go in a straight line. It wouldn't be angling, and it definitely wouldn't be getting smaller. Here's a great example of it not only getting smaller, but also angling, because it's circling, and the only reason it appears to go down is because of perspective. And when something gets further away in perspective, it goes lower in your field of vision and gets smaller, kind of like we see in this example here. And yes, you don't always see that because a lot of times there's thick atmosphere which acts as a lens, but on a low humidity day, it's clear as day. Oh, and the sun actually isn't in here with us. No, it's in the firmament. We just see the apparent sun, kind of like when you see a rainbow. And I'll show you evidence of that. Here is my very own backyard during the April 8th eclipse last year. And see, here's the apparent sun, and there's the actual sun in the firmament. And that's the lens flare flying around. So this is actually much closer to our reality than most people realize, because the light we see isn't the source. It's coming from a different source. Kind of like when you shine a light in a paperweight. This is a paperweight, and I'm shining my iPhone light at it. The iPhone light in the paperweight, and the sun on the April 8th eclipse. The apparent sun, and then the actual source. Funny how the apparent light in the paperweight looks an awful lot like the apparent light that I see in the sky. Now, I'm not claiming to know what that is. That's the real sun, the sun that God put in the firmament to light the day. Now, I don't know what it is. It's spiritual. God created it. He can do whatever he wants. He literally could have a giant iPhone pointing down at us. I'm not saying that's what it is, but I don't know. But it sure makes me feel good. It sure makes things grow, and it makes things happy. So I think there's something more to it than just a light. But I mean, you know, I'm just kidding, right? I know I live right there, and I'm spinning 1,000 miles per hour right now and hurling towards the sun at 66,600 miles per hour. And there are definitely people running around upside down in Australia. I mean, just because I don't see it or never have, or it defies all logic and reason, kind of like water bending around to stick to the other side of the ball, it doesn't mean it's not true. I mean, this is totally illogical. Stuff moving above us, even though every day I see the sun, it looks like it's moving and not us. And a place where everyone is standing in the same direction, well, that's just comical. Oh, you know, the funny thing about this NASA video is that the clouds don't ever seem to move. I mean, the Earth's rotating several hours, yet the clouds stay the exact same. I mean, I don't know about you, but I sure see the clouds and storm fronts moving a lot faster than standing still. All for entertainment purposes, people. I'm sure they just depicted things this way back then because they didn't know any better. Entertainment only.
When did the North Pole go from being this or this to this? Yeah, so when did it go from being 4 rivers, 4 big giant islands, and a big fucking magnetic rock at the middle to this? And then this one is, what was his name? Cornelius de Jode, and this was in 1593. So all 3 of them depict the North Pole as being 4 islands, okay, with magnetic rock, black rock, Rufus Nigra at the center. Okay, and this one's just covered up, but it was the same. You got the 4 rivers. People will say the Mercator's map was fictitious, even though all these maps show, even like there's Florida, you know, extending out. It's pretty close. It's not perfect, but it's close. So you're telling me people that built these amazing structures that we look back on and go, how the fuck did they do it? Didn't have boats to map this shit out? If it's so easy to prove that it's fictitious, just give us an aerial shot. Give us an aerial shot of the North Pole. Now look really close. Got this island right here, which is this Allen right here. You've got this Allen here, which is this Allen here. This one here is this one here. They're the same. And if they can get all this right, why is it that much further, just a little bit, and this is all false?
3 proofs that the Earth is flat. Part 1. Number 1. Airplanes do not adjust the angle of their flight, which is strange. If the Earth were a sphere, they would fly into space. Number 2. The temperature in Antarctica and the equator differ significantly, although the distance from these places is extremely insignificant. When you understand that the Earth is flat, then everything becomes clear. Number 3. If the Earth were spherical, ships would not even see lighthouses at night. But ships always see lighthouses regardless of the distance. Subscribe to learn more proofs.
So as you can see in this animation, we have the 12 constellations of the zodiac spinning around. And each spin of the zodiac wheel represents one stellar day, which takes roughly 23 hours and 56 minutes. Okay, so a sidereal day or a stellar day is roughly 4 minutes faster than a solar day. And this causes the stars to gain 1 degree every 24 hours. So in a 24-hour period, the stars rotate 361 degrees. It gains 1 degree a day on the sun. Now, on top of the zodiac wheel, I've also placed the sun and the moon. The sun takes a true 24 hours to complete one circle, one full day. And the moon is a little bit slower than both. The moon takes 24 hours and 50 minutes to complete one full circle. So we have the sun losing roughly 1 degree a day on the stars, and we have the moon losing roughly 12 degrees a day on the sun. And these slight variations of the solar, stellar, and lunar days is what gives us the phases of the moon, and it's what makes astrology possible. If the sun, moon, and stars all rotated around in a true 24-hour day, there would be no astrology because there would be no change in the relative positions of these luminaries. You have to realize that there is a reason why astrology ends in ology and astronomy does not. Okay, astrology is the real science. They want you to think that astronomy is the real science and that astrology is a make-believe pseudoscience, but the truth is the exact opposite. Okay, it was J.P. Morgan who was once quoted saying, "Millionaires don't use astrology, billionaires do." And that's because the elite who practice the occult and who are in possession of this sacred knowledge, they know very well that astrology is a real thing. The sun, the moon, and the stars are lights in the sky that give off energy, frequency, and vibration. And these energies and frequencies have an effect on human beings and our emotions. So the positions of the luminaries relative to each other at the very moment of your birth create like a timestamp that sticks with you for the rest of your life. Now, most of you are probably already familiar with your sun sign. Your sun sign is based off where the sun was positioned within the zodiac wheel at the time of your birth. And because the sun loses 1 degree a day on the stars, after 30 days, the sun will lose 30 degrees, which causes it to fall back into a new sign. So the first sign is Aries, which begins on March 21st, the vernal equinox. And the first sign begins on March 21st because the real first day of the new year is actually March 21st. The new year should begin in the spring. That's just common sense. It would only make sense that the new year would begin in the spring, the time of new growth and new life. The Julian and the Gregorian calendar start the new year on January 1st, and we know this is wrong. And the Hebrew calendar starts the new year exactly 6 months later, in September. The exact opposite. This is completely wrong. They do this because Satan and the people of the synagogue of Satan, they do everything in opposites to spite God. This is Satan's sense of humor. So the synagogue of Satan will say that the new year begins in the fall, when everything is dying. And they also say that the new day begins at sundown, at nighttime. Okay, did you hear me? They actually believe that the new day begins at night. Now, all we have to do is use the Torah, use Genesis, to prove that this is the exact opposite of the truth. In Genesis, it says that God called the light day and the darkness night, and that God separated the day from the night with evening and morning. Now in Genesis, at the end of every day of creation, it says, and the evening and the morning were the first day, or were the second day, and so on. Every day of creation ends with that phrase, and the evening and the morning. So let me just clarify that the word day has two meanings. It can mean a full day, as in a 24-hour solar day, or it can mean the time of light or daytime. So every day, a 24-hour day in Genesis, ends with the phrase the evening and the morning. So the day ends after morning, or the day begins at daytime. Does that make sense to you? The order goes day, evening, night, morning. Day, evening, night, morning. That's the order. The day begins at day. That's common sense, and it lines up with Scripture. Doesn't that make more sense to you? That the day should begin at night? They do things the complete opposite. Just like it makes sense that the new year, spring, the time of new growth, okay, but the synagogue of Satan does everything in opposites. So they claim that the new day begins at night, after evening, and they claim that the new year begins in fall, when everything is dying. So I guess the point I'm trying to make after that huge segue is that the first sign, Aries, begins on March 21st because March 21st is the actual first day of the new year, the vernal equinox. So 3 months later, the stars will have gained 90 degrees on the sun, and now the sun will be in the sign of Cancer. And this is also the time of the year when the sun is circling over the Tropic of Cancer, which I didn't depict in this model because I don't have the capabilities, but during the summer solstice, during that 30-day period, the sun is circling over the Tropic of Cancer. And during the winter solstice, during the sign of Capricorn, the sun is circling over the Tropic of Capricorn. So that's not a coincidence. The two tropics represent the lines of latitude the sun spirals between. The sun is never any further north than the Tropic of Cancer, and the sun is never any further south than the Tropic of Capricorn. Okay? That is the only reason why the tropics are even a thing. It's the only reason why they were created. Now, this is true on the globe model or the flat model. The sun will never be directly overhead any further north than the Tropic of Cancer, and it will never be directly overhead any further south than the Tropic of Capricorn. This is true on the globe model or the flat model. So most people are familiar with their sun signs, but they're not too familiar with their moon signs. The moon sign represents where the moon was in relation to the stars at the time of your birth. So because the moon loses 13 degrees a day on the stars, the moon will fall through all the signs roughly once a month. So while it takes the sun a full year to fall back through each sign of the zodiac, it only takes the moon 1 month to fall back through each sign of the zodiac. So calculating your moon sign is actually very easy. You can either go to a moon sign calculator on the internet and have them do it for you, or you could try to figure it out yourself, and it's very easy. The first thing you got to do is look up what the phase of the moon was at the time of your birth. Now you could use your sun sign and the phase of the moon to calculate what your moon sign is. So for example, I was born on May 19th of 1989. So that makes my sun sign a Taurus. And I looked up the phase of the moon at the time of my birth, and it was a full moon. It was a 99% full moon. So a full moon occurs when the sun and the moon are 180 degrees opposite of each other. In my case, the sun and the moon were probably like 178 degrees opposite of each other because I was right before the exact full moon.
Those are all the videos I have for you today. I hope you paying attention and figured out the earth is flat. We've all been lied to since a child. And please like, share, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks.